And then lastly, that Florida-Miami game. My thoughts aren't too different on that Florida-Miami game than what they have been from last night. I spent a lot of time harping on Florida, so I will give a little bit more love to Miami. They were really good. And again, it's early. So it's really hard to know, was Florida that bad or was Miami that good? Maybe Florida's not as bad as we think, and Miami is just a playoff contender, right? Maybe Miami's not as good as we think, and Florida is literally going to win 2 or 3 games this year. Or maybe it's somewhere in the middle, right? Like Miami's maybe a top 10-ish team, and Florida's not making a bowl, but they're going to win 5 games, right? Like that's to me, that's probably how I would label it. But again, we've only seen 60 minutes of football, and about 25 of that was like garbage time yesterday. So it's hard to know exactly, right? And that's what I would say is the whole idea of the video is pump the brakes just a little bit, right? Pump the brakes just a tad on any overarching, like, oh, this is what's going to happen this year because of what we saw in, 60 minutes, 35, 40 minutes of football yesterday. From the Gators and Canes. I think what's most likely is that Florida's going to win 4 or 5 games. I'd be surprised if they made a bowl. And I think Miami's going to win 10 or 11 games. Miami could certainly pee down their leg and blow it. They've done that in years past. I'll just tell you, I don't see that happening this year. I think that, and I know Cristobal gets all the jokes. I get that. Their schedule is set up so well. They're not going to lose to FAMU next week at home. They're not going to lose to Ball State the week after that at home. They're not going to lose on the road at USF. Although I do think USF is turning things around and doing things the right way. And as a Tampa guy, I like that just because it's good for the community. It's good for everybody. Virginia Tech losing to Vandy. I have a hard time seeing Virginia Tech rebounding in 4 or 5 weeks to beat Miami down in South Florida at what should be a massive raucous environment for a night game, 7:30 p.m. on a Friday night. At Cal, maybe the travel there is weird, but they get the extra day because they play Friday against Virginia Tech. It would shock me if Miami doesn't start the season 6-0. Then they have a couple of tough ones. It gets tougher from there. They've got a tough, what I'd say, 3 games in a 4-week stretch. Louisville on the road, Florida State at home, Duke at home. I like Miami a lot there. And then at Georgia Tech. Again, we'll see what Georgia Tech is as the year goes on. That's 3 tough games. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Miami drops one of those games. It's really hard to be perfect, right? So do they lose at Louisville? Does the rivalry get them at Florida State? Do they lose at Georgia Tech? Let's say they lose one of those games, right? I'd be surprised if they lost 2. Let's say Miami loses one of those games. They finish with Wake Forest and Syracuse. They're not losing outside of that 4-game stretch. I told you they're not losing any games this year. They're going to start 6-0, and I'll be shocked if they don't. And they're going to finish 2-0. So that's 8 wins right there. And then it's what do they do in that middle 4, right? I think they beat Duke at home. I think they probably win at least 2 of those other 3. At Louisville, at Georgia Tech, Florida State. I'd be surprised if they didn't win 2 of them. Shoot, what if they lose 1? What if they lose 2? They're still 10-2. That's still market improvement from I have a hard time not seeing Miami hit their over of 9.5 right now. Now, injuries happen. We don't know what's up with. I still don't. I got to my buddy's house here and went to bed last night. I don't know what's up with Ruben Bain. I don't know what's up with Martinez. Certainly hope that they're okay. Injuries happen. Fluky things happen, right? God forbid it. Knock on wood. If Cam Ward was to go down, yeah, they could lose more games, right? I get that. But if they stay healthy, if they don't get in their own way, if Mario Cristobal doesn't pull a Mario Cristobal, they're going to win a lot of games this year. And so I said Notre Dame in an earlier segment that Notre Dame could be penciling their name into the playoff. I don't know that Miami's ready to pencil their name into the playoff just yet because they are going to have to get to that ACC championship game. And if they have losses, losing the ACC championship game could be a big deal for them because I don't think the ACC gets the respect. But Miami looks really good. Canes fans, try to be objective again. I feel like I've got to preface everything because of the amount of crap I've given you guys over the years. Most of it probably deserved, but Miami looks really good this year. They look like they're going to compete for the conference for sure, and they look like they could potentially compete for more, right? Playoff spot or whatever. Florida, again, got to figure stuff out. I actually want to do an interview with a Florida insider that had some good thoughts on Napier and his stability, his future. just the tenure there, the thoughts around that. So maybe I'll save a lot of that talk for later. But yeah, Florida looks like they're in a ton of trouble. There's really no way around that. There's no way to sugarcoat that. Miami looks like they're legit. Florida looks like they're crap. Florida fans just in my comments last night, just yeah, we agree with you. We want to fire it. We want to fire Napier now. Like, just get it over with. I don't remember who it was, but I was chatting with Allie the other day at the game, or yesterday at the game, and she said, well, the old saying. She said, I'm not saying that this needs to happen, but the old saying is what needs to be done eventually should just be done expeditiously, which is a quote from, I don't know who, Spurrier or Urban or Nick Saban or just one of those, legends or whatever. So I don't know. They're not firing him after week one, but if they were to lose to A&M, I think that would be the nail in the coffin. And then if they were to, I think they'll beat Mississippi State on the road. We'll see. Mississippi State looked good yesterday against a pretty bad opponent, but put up 50-plus points, what you're supposed to do in those games. If they were to lose to a UCF, I think they, firing somebody in early October would be crazy. But if they drop to A&M and then they lose to UCF, that's it. He's canned. UCF, not overly impressive in their debut. It was week one. They ended up scoring a ton of points, but they started kind of slow. So I want to see a little bit more out of UCF. They've got some big games coming up, and we'll kind of see how that goes down. They play Colorado in a few weeks. If they beat Colorado, I think they play Colorado. Do they play Colorado the week before they play Florida, which could be pretty interesting. UCF, Colorado, yeah, then Florida the very next week. So a couple of fun ones. They play Sam Houston on Saturday, and then at TCU. I expect UCF to be 3-0 with Colorado coming to town. And shoot, Colorado plays Nebraska this week, and then Colorado State. They could be 3-0. I'd probably lean 2-1 for them. But if both teams are 3-0, the bounce house is going to be bouncing. And if I wasn't going to be in Tuscaloosa that day, I'd try and get over to Orlando because it's so close. Then they come to the Swamp. So if they beat Colorado, they're 4-0. The Gators could be 2-2 at that point. I'd be interested to see what that spread is. I'd still think the spread is like Florida -6, -7. But yeah, we'll see. Florida's got to figure some stuff out and figure some stuff out quick. I wasn't sure if I was going to say this, but I'll just put it out there. I spoke with two people who they weren't on the sideline, but they were just off the sideline. And on Florida's side at the game yesterday. And they said that the energy there, even after Montrell Johnson's big touchdown, which kind of awoke in the crowd and had the whole place pretty lit, they said the energy was just off. It felt weird. Players didn't seem engaged. Everybody looked sad. And maybe it's because they were getting blown out. And, well, they weren't getting blown out at that point. It was a 14-point game, and then Johnson's touchdown cut it to 7. So they weren't really getting blown out. But they just said the energy was very weird. Like, I don't know if that's a culture thing. I don't know what the issue there is. I think Florida's got a pretty good culture. Like, that's not even me taking shots or firing at people, but to be down 14 and then score a touchdown to cut it to 7 and the whole crowd's behind you again and you're at home and, man, here we go, guys, going into half. Now they ended up giving the touchdown at half. But, man, when I was talking with people, one at halftime, one after the game, both said, like, yeah, the energy on the sideline was super weird. That's not confirmed gospel. I wasn't on the sideline. That's two people talking to me. That's two people's perception, right? That's not even – a confirmed like sideline reporter saying like everybody's down in the dumps here, like watching it. That's just two people's take. So don't, but I think it's notable, right? It probably matches the effort you saw on the field. It matches the intensity you saw on the field. So again, don't take that as gospel. You can run with it. I don't care, but it makes sense. It matches the mood of the fan base. It matches the mood of the play. It matches the way they looked. Napier called it embarrassing. He said he was disappointed. He didn't go as far as to say discouraged. I know he's asked about that in the press conference, but big win for Miami, man. And, again, I told you this, but if you want to watch the kind of the raw reaction, we'll link it here at the end.